You are also going to need scissors to cut your paper to the size of your shadow box. You're going to also need tape. I like to use masking tape, but you can also use Scotch tape. You're going to need some sort of glue, whether that is a glue stick or Elmer's glue, like liquid glue. I like the glue stick the best. And if you are designing or adding color or decorating your background too, you want to have some colored pencils or crayons, something to add color. Okay, so that is step one, which is gathering the materials. And now we're just going to start cutting our paper to fit the size of our sections on our shadow box. So I'm going to start with some scrapbook paper. Let's start with this paper. And this is pretty colorful and I really like it a lot, so I want it kind of on the front. So for the front, I have this rectangle here. I'm not trying to cover that up. So really, I just need to cut some strips to go on the side of my shadow box. So I'm just going to take my paper and just draw some pencil lines. I'll do it on the back so you can see a little bit better. Right where I think I need to cut my paper. So I'm taking this paper, putting the edge up to the edge of the shadow box, just drawing a line here and maybe here, and that will help me know the width that I need for a strip. I'm going to cut it along. Now let's see how that looks. All right, nice. So it's too long down here, so I want to just take a pencil, make a line, and I'm really just cutting all of the paper to the size that I need it. Looks like this size paper should also work on this size, so I'm literally just going to take this paper right here and kind of trace it onto that same paper again, so I can just create a repeat, just making little lines so I know exactly where to cut. You don't need a ruler, it does not need to be perfect. And that looks pretty good. It's a little bit wide, so I just want to trim it a little bit. Just trim it off a little bit. So far, I have my two borders, and that looks really good. All right, I might want to add some more borders down here. I could add even a different color paper, or I could add some paper that I designed. So I'm actually going to add some white paper down here. I want it to be a little bit more bold than the brown. So I'm going to just cut that to size. It needs to stop right there and stop right there. Just make little lines that will help you know where to cut your paper. And you can always trim it if you want. All right, I'm going to trim it just a tad. And for this, I just want to create one of my own designs. So I might want to draw some just kind of curly lines like this. And I'm just using a Sharpie because that's nice and bold. You could also use colored pencils. Like right there. And maybe I want to do even a different pattern or a different color up here. Maybe use some construction paper. So I can use this as a tracer, put it on the paper again because that is the size that I need for the top as well. Cut it out. Maybe on this orange paper, I want to get my colored pencils and add some designs. Let's use blue or purple, that will stand out. Maybe I just want to do some swirls on this one. All right, see how that's looking? Looks like I need to trim that a tad. I like it. All right, so that is ready to glue. I'm just gonna go ahead and glue it before I do any other part. And I'm going to use my glue stick. So when you're using the glue stick, make sure it's not all the way up here. You do not need lipstick, as I like to call it, where you have way too much up. You just need just a tad looking over. You're gonna flip this over and really just focus on the edges. If the edges of your paper have glue on it, then your whole paper will stick down. Arrange it up towards the edge. Actually, I'm gonna flip it around. At the top and the bottom. And I like to use the cap of my glue stick to kind of press down my paper. Do the other side. And I'm gonna put down a scrap piece of paper so I don't get my work table all sticky. You can always kind of go off of your scrapbook paper onto your scrap paper. Place it on. Use the cap, press it down. Kind of looks like curtains right now. Glue this. There's really so many ways that you can do this. This is really just one option. You could even cut like skinnier strips of paper and just make it like stripes. You could use all the same color paper, like this Argyle paper that I use. You could use all the same around the entire border. I just wanted to change it up, so that's why I used two different options. Okay, so far, this is the front. Now I'm just going to switch sides and work on the inside of my box. So now I'm going to be working on the glossier side, not the brown paper side. So instead of gluing down paper, I am actually going to tape it down. The tape just helps the paper stick way better to this glossier side. The glue would really just not work for gluing paper down here. So we can kind of arrange it and kind of picture, all right, what is this going to look like? Once you arrange it like that, you kind of know, all right, this is going to be the inside of my shadow box. So you are going to see it through this hole, so that's why you want paper right here. You also want paper on the sides, the side tabs. That includes this tab, in this tab, because when it's all together, you can kind of see the inside right there. So you want to cover that up with some sort of decorative paper. Again, you have options. You can use magazine paper. You can use paper that you add designs to. It's really your choice. I'm going to pull in this orange paper again. I want to kind of make my colors unified, and I like the way the orange paper looks as the background. It's nice and bright. It's not too dark, so it kind of helps get rid of any shadows back there. So put the corner into this corner, and again, you're just making lines. You're almost like a tailor. You are fitting that paper to the size, making it custom fit your cardboard box. I'm kind of putting my finger here. That's where the corner is. You can kind of see that's my corner. So I know I need to draw a line right there. Okay. I'm just cutting along. If you struggle cutting a straight line, you can always just use literally a piece of paper or a ruler to connect your dots so you know where exactly to cut. That will help you cut a straight line if you need it. All right, so now I know I need to cut this size. Keep cutting along. Again, we are not using the glue, we are going to use tape. So my goal is to show as little tape as possible, which is why I'm going to use tape rolls. They will disappear behind my paper. And I am going to flip it over and just place it in the corners. When you are making a tape roll, you want to take a little bit. You really only need just about an inch. Put your fingers at the top, tear towards yourself. Take one end, fold it over, take the other end and fold it over on top, and you have a tape roll. And this is awesome for hiding your tape. Make sure you put one in every corner so that the paper is really secure. I might just put one in the middle just to be safe. And let's place it down. Match it up in the corners. Whoop, not quite. Try it again. Matching it up. And did I get it? All right. Looks pretty good. I'm going to flatten that out, and now I don't see the Cheez-Its anymore. I see this orange paper, which is what I'm going to see. Okay, I'm going to use the same color for the tabs. Just trim it a little bit. Stop right there. Should work. Let's tape it down. Okay, let's arrange that. Try not to leave a little gap like right here. Try to kind of cover it up. Press it down, you're good to go. All right, last but not least, you need one border right here. I've run out of this paper, so I'm going to use a different color paper. Let's bring out the Argyle paper again. Again, if you don't have fancy paper, you can still do this part. You can just draw lines with Sharpie, draw lines with colored pencil onto white paper, and that will still work. If you don't have the fancy paper, you can make it yourself. All right, flip it over, arrange it. Oops. The tape's wanting to not work with me. And we're good. All right, so now when I look inside, I don't see Cheez-Its anymore. I see fancy papers. You can kind of see it from above. I really like it. So you don't need to put paper right here because you are not even going to see that. That's going to be behind your shadow box. Don't need to put paper right there. Okay, right now the background, or now the outside, is still blank. We've done the inside, that's all good. Now let's move to the back. And for this, I wanted to add some magazine pages. Something a little bit more interesting than just a patterned paper. So I've just gone in and I've flipped through these magazines, and I have looked and found some pictures that I like. So I have dog-eared those. Yes. All right. So I like this fruit paper, so or this fruit picture. So I could literally tear this out Being careful not to rip it. And I could glue this whole picture, or I could kind of cut around what I want and cut away these words. So that's your choice. And this one, I found one that I liked. Let's see. Yeah, I really like this apple picture, and I like it a little bit more than this one because it is bigger and will fill more of my space, and it can go over two sides. So I'm going to tear that one out. Okay, so I'm going to cut this circle out because I think that's a really cool shape and it will look really nice. So just carefully take your scissors and cut around. Try to just go slow on this. You don't want to get hairy lines like that. That looks no good. Take your time. Use the back of your scissors instead of the front of your scissors because that makes cleaner lines. You want clean lines. You want it to look quality because you are going to see that edge. Now I have something that looks really cool, and I like it a lot because it is fall themed. So I'm going to place it here on the back, and I'm going to have a little bit of it overlap onto this side so that when you see the shadow box together, it kind of goes on both sides. So when you're gluing the magazine, magazine pages are nice and easy to glue down because they're thin paper, so they work great. Let's grab my scrap piece of paper so I can glue again. Again, when you are gluing paper, focus on the edges and not the middle. If the edges have glue all over them, then the entire paper will stick down. Just use a few lines maybe in the middle if you have a big piece. And that's ready to go. Let's arrange it and then press it down. All right, let's put it near the top. I cut that little edge right there, so I want to line that up first. Use my cap. When you're using your cap, instead of going in, try to start from the middle and go out, so you kind of are pressing that paper outwards like that. Pressing my edge down, pressing it over the edge like that. When I fold this paper, sometimes the paper wants to flip up like that, so I can just kind of press it down again. And now I have a really cool looking design on the back and the front for my background. Obviously, these apples reminded me of fall time, so that also counts as kind of one of those things that makes you happy. So apple time, picking apples, it can include, or it can count as one of the things that make you happy. Okay, if you wanted to make these apples pop even more, on mine, I outlined my magazine page in Sharpie just to make it a little bit more graphic, a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to do some of that. That's a good way to make a magazine page your own, instead of just leaving it plain and simple. I would challenge you, if you are going to use a magazine page, not to just put little random pictures everywhere, but to really choose one single one that you really like and that's pretty big. You don't want to use a little tiny picture from a magazine because that just won't have as much impact. And we want it to kind of serve as a background instead of just a little tiny picture. I'm going to outline each one. Maybe you can even add some detail in the background in between your apples to make it even more graphic. So maybe you want to do some dots. outline some more. Or maybe some shapes like triangles. Add your own spin on what is already there. Maybe you can even outline the bowl or the very outer edge. Make it pop a little bit more. Okay, so for time's sake, I am going to skip how to show you how to put paper on these two sides because it's basically the same as this. But I do want to show you some more designs that you could to add to your background in addition to just adding paper. So if you look at mine, I drew some kind of bumpy lines and they almost act like roof shingles or scales, and that adds a little bit more interest to those top tabs that you guys made or that we made together in that last video. So if you want it to look like roof shingles, you can draw some bumpy lines. And when you're drawing a bumpy line in a row, on the next row you want to start in the middle and go to the next middle, so that it starts to layer like scales. Or like feathers, you can think of it that way. But I'm kind of thinking mine as roof tiles. Finish that row off. It's okay if it kind of goes onto the front. Like that. All right, I really like that. I could add that on the two sides. I could also make these look like they are windows. So on mine, I kind of made mine look like a window. So let's make these look like windows to kind of go with the house theme. You could add patterns in yours if you don't want to make it look like anything. But let's look over that. So to draw a window, I'm going to draw some crossbars. And then this is where I might want to get some colored pencils. Let's find those again. And I'm going to make it look like I am looking out, so I'm going to draw some stars. Looking outside, nighttime. And I want to add a moon. Maybe it should be white. Let's make the night sky blue. And I encourage you to just add in those little details on your shadow box that really make your shadow box reflect you and the kind of person that you are and what you like. For me, I love drawing houses, so that's why I kind of like the house theme. But for you, you might want to draw some characters up in these tabs or some different patterns. Maybe you want to bring back that curly pattern that we use somewhere else. Just add some detail everywhere where you have a blank space to make all of your drawings and your symbols that you're going to add later really pop. Okay, you guys, so that was all about the background. That takes a little bit of time, but if you take your time, it's really worth it. And now we are ready to talk about our symbols and our drawings in our next video.